Alrighty guys, welcome to the video here today for Wednesday, October 19th, 2022. My name is Brock Page and I've been doing sports picks for free right here on YouTube since 2016. I also sell my personal sports bets on patreon.com/BrockPage. I'm currently 3-0 my last 3 crowd pleaser teaser bets on that site. Now if you want to access today's crowd pleaser teaser, the link for that play is in the description section below. I currently have over 605 members. We're signed up and active on my site right now. And with that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into some free content. We're going to take a look at the Wizards squaring off against the Pacers, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Washington's -1, totals 226.5. Now, we did see a 1-point move toward the Pacers and the under in this one. Washington opened 2, down to 1, total opened 227.5. Down to 226 and a hook. Now, I do like the Wizards in this spot here, guys. Bradley Beal returns to Washington, where he averaged over 23 points a game last year. The Wizards were also to retain big man Kristaps Porzingis, who scored over 22 points a night with the Wizards last year, and he also averaged 8 boards. Now, they're facing a Pacer team who does not have their top 3 scorers from last season on the roster. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward the Wizards -1, under 226.5. Next game, Magic Pistons, 7 o'clock East. Detroit's -4, totals 217. And we saw a 0.5 point move toward Detroit and the under in this one. The Pistons opened 3.5 up to 4. Total opened 217.5, down to 217 even. But despite being favored in this one, the Pistons lost leading scorer Jeremy Grant to the Blazers. Meanwhile, their current leading scorer from last year, Cade Cunningham, he averaged only 17 points a game last season. Now, they're facing an Orlando roster who returns their top 7 scorers from last year. And even though Cole Anthony was the team's leading points getter, it was actually Gary Harris who was making nearly 40% of his three-pointers. Now, total-wise, 4 out of these teams' last 5 head-to-head gatherings did get over the line. I'm going to lean toward Orlando +4, keeping this one close, over 217. Next game, Pelicans Nets, 7:30 p.m. East. Brooklyn's -3.5, totals 231. Now we're seeing movement toward the Pels and the over in this one. Brooklyn opened 4, down to 3.5. Total open 229, up to 231. But no matter what the line movement says, we're still looking at a Brooklyn team who's more talented than New Orleans. Kevin Durant averaged just about 30 points a game last year, and he shot 91% from the stripe. Meanwhile, Kyrie Irving made 42% of his three-pointers in the regular season. And even though C.J. McCollum on the other side was solid for the Pels last year, just keep in mind, he shot 67% from the foul line. Not very good. Got to imagine the Nets will end up fouling him a little bit instead of letting him go off in the field. Now, total-wise, both squads aren't particularly known for their defensive prowess. I'm going to lean toward Brooklyn -3.5, over 231. Next matchup, Rockets-Hawks, 7:30 p.m. East. Atlanta's -10, totals 233.5. Now, the Hawks certainly don't lack firepower. Trae Young scored over 28 points a game last year, and he also averaged just about double-digit assists. As a matter of fact, Atlanta's top 7 scorers last year shot nearly 40% from 3-land collectively. They're facing a Rockets team who really doesn't win a lot, and they don't play a lot of defense. They also lost their leading scorer, Christian Wood, to the Timberwolves. I'm going to lean toward Atlanta -10, over 233.5. Next game, Cavs, Raptors, 7:30 p.m. East. Toronto's -2, totals 214. Now we saw a 1-point move toward Cleveland and the under in this one. Toronto opened 3, down to 2. Total opened 215, down to 214. That said, though, the Raptors still have a solid core group of guys returning. Pascal Siakam, he averaged 22 points a game last year in both the regular season and the playoffs. Meanwhile, Gary Trent Jr. made nearly 40% of his three-pointers himself. I like the Raptors in a close one here. Give me Toronto -2, under 214. Next game should be a good one. I'm talking about the Bulls at the Heat, 7:30 p.m. East. Miami's -7, totals 216. Now we're seeing movement toward Miami and the over in this one. And I'll tell you what, the FTX Arena is going to be rocking here today on opening night. Should see a good amount of celebrities courtside. And I'll tell you what, you definitely don't want to face a pissed-off Jimmy Butler. He continues to make deep runs in the postseason and just falls short. So look for him to come out very aggressive, very focused. He actually scored over 27 points a game last year in the playoffs, along with a couple of steals. Meanwhile, Tyler Hero scored 20 points a night in the regular season himself, and he drilled 40% of his three-pointers. Now, they're facing a Bulls team who returns a bunch of core guys. That said, though, these guys aren't real sound in the defensive department, kind of sloppy on D. I'm going to lean toward Miami -7 over 216. Next game, Knicks, Grizzlies, 7:30 p.m. East. Memphis is -4.5, total 226. Now, we saw some big movement toward the Knicks in the early going here. 2-point move toward New York. The Grizzlies opened 6.5 down to 4.5. Total opened 227 down to 226. All that in mind, though, I think Memphis is the right side here. John Morant averaged 27 points a game in the regular season and playoffs. Meanwhile, Desmond Bane was a legit threat from three land last year. He shot 44% from downtown in the regular season. Now, they're taking on a Knicks team who's solid on defense, but definitely not built for a track meet. Their leading scorer, Julius Randle, he also shot just 30% from beyond the arc last year. I'm going to lean toward Memphis -4.5, under 226. Next ball game, Hornets, Spurs, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. San Antonio's -1.5, totals 224. Now, we did see a flip of the line in this one, plus a whole bunch of movement toward the under. Charlotte's LaMelo Ball, he's sitting the opener out with an ankle injury. A lot of overreaction from the bettors here. Having said that, though, just keep in mind, Charlotte's facing a Spurs team who lost leading scorer DeJounte Murray to Atlanta. He was actually responsible for over 21 points a game last season. I think the Hornets can still get the job done in this spot here. I'm going to lean toward Charlotte +1, under 224. Next game, Thunder, Timberwolves, 8 o'clock East. Minnesota's -10.5, totals 226. Now, the T-Wolves were hyper-competitive in the postseason last year. Anthony Edwards averaged over 25 points a game in the playoffs and shot nearly 41% from three-land. Meanwhile, Karl-Anthony Towns shot 46% from beyond the arc in the postseason himself. Now, it feels like OKC is continuing to rebuild and may have problems getting on the scoreboard. I'm going to lean toward Minnesota -10.5, under 226. Next ball game, Nuggets, Jazz, 9 o'clock East. Denver's -7 on the road, totals 225.5. Now, Nikola Jokic lost some of his supporting cast. Will Barton and Monte Morris left for the Wizards. Now, obviously, the Jazz are completely dismantled from last season on the other side themselves. But this just seems like a pretty big number for a divisional rival on the road. I'm going to lean toward Utah +7, keeping this one close, under 225.5. Next matchup, Blazers, Kings, 10 o'clock p.m. East. Sacramento's the 2-point favorite at home, totals 229. Now, the Kings don't play enough defense for me to back them here. They're going to have to face Dame Lillard here tonight, and I wouldn't be surprised if he shot it 40 times. I'm going to lean toward Portland +2, over 229. Next and final ball game, Mavs, Suns, 10 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Phoenix is -4.5, totals 216. As good as the Suns are, well, I do think the Mavs can keep it close and cover this number. Luka Doncic was scoring 31 points a game in the postseason last year, and he averaged just about 10 boards a game during those playoff games. Meanwhile, Spencer Dinwiddie, he was knocking down 42% of his three-pointers in the playoffs as well. When it comes to the total, both teams play real solid defense. Wouldn't be shocked if this one stayed under. I'm going to lean toward Dallas +4.5, under 216. And with that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into our quick pick recap. I like Washington -1, under 226.5. Orlando +4, over 217. Brooklyn -3.5, over 231. Atlanta -10, over 233 and a hook. Toronto -2, under 214. Miami -7, over 216. Memphis -4.5, under 226. Charlotte +1, under 224. Minnesota -10.5, under 226. Utah Jazz +7, under 225.5. Portland +2, over 229. With my next and final free pick for the video, I'm going to lean toward Dallas +4.5, under 216.